And welcome. Our thoughts and prayers continue to go out to the victims and their families. I want to once again commend both the police department and the fire department in terms of how they both have conducted themselves from the very beginning of this incident up to today. As Lieutenant Saunders mentioned, Chief Isaac will provide an update on where the department is with the investigation. He will be followed by Mayor Cranley, and then we'll take a couple of questions, which we'll ask Lieutenant Saunders to moderate that part. Chief.
Good afternoon. Go ahead. I wanted to give an update of the progression of the investigation at this point. Just to recap, as you all are aware, Saturday night we had 17 victims of gunfire at the Cameo nightclub. Of those 17, one individual was determined to be deceased at the scene. That's Mr. O'Brien Spikes, a male, 27 years of age. Evidence collected at the crime scene and interviews conducted with multiple witnesses indicated that there were more than one shooter involved in the incident. Over the course of the past 4 days, our homicide investigators have worked nonstop to identify those responsible for this senseless shooting. Through their investigative efforts, 2 individuals have been identified as being involved in the shooting inside of the nightclub. Both of these suspects are now in police custody and are in the process of being charged in connection to the shootings. The individuals in custody are Mr. Cornell Beckley, a male, 27 years of age. Mr. Beckley was apprehended this afternoon by our fugitive apprehension unit with the assistance of District 5 officers. The second individual in our custody is Mr. DeAndre Davis, a male, 29 years of age. Mr. Davis is currently being treated for gunshot wounds at the University Hospital and is listed in critical condition. Both of these subjects are being charged with murder in connection to the incident, and additional charges will likely be added as they proceed through the grand jury process. As the investigation progresses, there is evidence that other individuals were involved in this incident, and we're continuing to develop more information as the case progresses. Again, I want to say the investigation is still ongoing, and we will continue to conduct interviews, collect more evidence, so I'm going to be very limited in what I'm able to answer in your questions today. I'm going to turn it over to the mayor, and then we'll take a few questions after that.
Thank you. I'm glad to be joined by Council Members Simpson and Sittenfeld. First, I want to congratulate the greatest police department in the country for bringing at least 2 of the shooters to justice through arrest, and there may be additional in the future. And I think it's important to just remember the danger at which the officers, both the police officers and the firefighters who rushed onto the scene. And then Chief Isaac just mentioned that the Fugitive Apprehension Unit went and arrested one of the men today. Last year, I happened to go on a ride-along with the Fugitive Apprehension Unit run by Eric Vogelpohl and a whole host of great cops. Incredibly dangerous work, going after known shooters to their known whereabouts. Sometimes it's at home, sometimes it's at a friend's house, and coming up on them and arresting them. These are the best of the best officers that we have, and I think it's important that we thank our first responders and our police for this great police work so quickly. I have to say that it's all tempered by, it's good news of a very bad situation, that Mr. Spikes has died, and we extend our prayers still to him and his family and all the other innocent victims. The vast majority of people shot in this incident were true innocent bystanders. Obviously, some were involved in the shooting. But this is a tragedy of epic proportions. The worst mass shooting in the history of the city. And we still have a long way to go on this investigation. We have a long way to go on the shooting in Westwood. We have a long way to go on the shooting in Mount Auburn, a long way to go on the shootings of Winton Terrace earlier this week. We've got to figure out a way to get the guns off the street and to teach people not to resolve disputes with guns. However, since we'll never have a perfect world, we will continue to have the best police department in the country to bring people to justice who shoot indiscriminately innocent victims at the Cameo like we saw last Saturday night. So I just want to finish by saying thanks to everyone involved, and I'm sure there'll be some questions for the chief.
We'll take a few questions.
Chief, you mentioned D5 and the arrest of one of the first gentlemen. Where did that happen in particular, and what were the circumstances?
I believe it was off of Colerain Avenue this afternoon at District 5. I believe the individual had been identified. He was under surveillance by our fugitive apprehension team. He was taken into custody without incident.
Chief, do you believe Orion Spikes was targeted in this?
I have no information that indicates that.
Was DeAndre Davis one of the intended targets, and what was the nature of this?
Again, I know there's been a lot of speculation as to what precipitated this incident. The information that we've been able to develop is that this did begin with an altercation inside the nightclub. A group of individuals deteriorated into a fight. It escalated into individuals being able to sneak guns inside the bar and shots being fired. And really that's kind of what we know at this point.
What have you learned about that external security line where people, the rumors, the speculation that there was another line you could pay more to get in without being checked?
Again, you know, I've heard those things as well. That's really not been the primary part of this investigation. We're trying to determine who fired shots, who's responsible for individuals being struck by gunfire. Those things will be answered at a later date.
Back to the fight. The fight had started in Cameo.
Correct.
And it did not stem, to your knowledge, from an incident earlier in the day or prior to that.
To my knowledge, it did not.
So there was a fight between whom?
Between several individuals that were patrons of the nightclub that evening.
And somehow these two got in with a gun.
Correct, correct. We believe there were several individuals. We believe that there were at least 3 different guns that made it inside of this nightclub, possibly more.
So there's maybe potentially a third shooter.
Possibly.
Chief,
The investigation is still continuing. I want to be very cautious in what I add. We've made some progress. We're continuing to make progress, and I don't want to jeopardize that.
Can I just ask you-
You said 20 shots on Monday, at least 20 shots. Are you able to update that number for us?
Well, I really can't exactly. I know we have recovered several, I believe 16 shell casings at the scene. However, there is some indication that there may be more shots fired than those 16.
How difficult has it been to investigate this case, considering at least the second man is in critical condition at the hospital? Difficult to communicate, I assume? What challenges?
Very, very difficult. A lot of information to process. Our homicide unit has done an outstanding job. They've worked tirelessly to get us to this point, and we believe that there will be more arrests to come.
Were Beckley and Davis the ones fighting, or do you know who was fighting?
I'm not exactly certain of that, and again, I want to be very cautious in the information that I share regarding that.
Chief, can you tell us about the kind of guns that were used and have those guns been recovered?
We have recovered some, but again, I'm not certain I want to reveal that information at this point.
One more question. Chief, are any of these victims involved in the fight, to your knowledge?
Say again?
Any other of the shooting victims involved in the fight inside Cameo?
That's not been made aware to me at this point. I believe the majority of the individuals that were struck by gunfire were simply patrons of the nightclub.
I know you
All
have
right.
any more questions. Sorry, Chief, to interrupt you there.
No.
I know you have any more questions, and at this point, I think we've provided you as much as we can as possible to this point on this update. And as we get more information as it develops, we'll be sure to give you that update through
All right.
Twitter as well as through
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.